Hello friends, Heidi here from Rain Country. God is good all the time. And I'm here for another Monday This and That video, which is a weekly vlog that I do where I just talk about whatever's going on, give you some updates, answer a few questions that I have coming in, and lead you back to some old videos or even let you know videos yet to come. So let's get started on the topics of today. So first thing we're going to talk about are the green tomatoes. So a lot of people have some green tomatoes and are trying to figure out how to use them up or how to get them to ripen. So let me cover first some of the things I've used green tomatoes for. Now I'll admit they're not my favorite thing to use for various things, though I've tried many things with them. My favorite thing though to use them for or to make out of them is green tomato relish in place of cucumbers for that. And I'll throw some zucchini in there too while I have it. But I haven't been making any because though we like relish, we don't eat it often enough. And I still have a lot in food stores from the one I made a few years ago. And I have a video on that I'll link to down below. But I will say this, best tasting relish I have ever had, made out of my own green tomatoes and zucchini. Now, I've also made green tomato pickles using the smaller green tomatoes and just fermented them. And they were okay. Again, not my favorite thing. I would prefer other types of ferments over the tomatoes, but it was one thing to do with them. I had to give it a try. And I've also, now this one I was actually been pretty happy with. I've also taken green tomatoes and chopped them up and used them in either like a beef veggie bake or a stir fry. And you can do that, and when you cook them like that, it takes out some of that tartness. You'll still have some tartness to them, but it's not as tart when you cook them, saute them a little bit. And it's not bad. It's a way, especially if you mix it in with other vegetables, it can be actually pretty good. And or even as a side dish, if you saute it with onions and garlic and whatever herbs and spices sound good, that's another option. And of course, there's always fried green tomatoes. And I've done that from time to time. I do like them, but that's something I would only eat maybe once a year at most. Oh, and then of course you can use your green tomatoes to make salsa the same way you would your red tomatoes. Now, I have mixed a few green tomatoes in with my tomatillos back when I was growing them and making salsa verde, which just means green sauce. But we still like red tomatoes better and red tomato salsa better. Even though the salsa verde is great, we still like the red tomato salsa much better. And any other suggestions you have for people who are wanting to use up green tomatoes, go ahead and put them in comments down below. Now, as far as ripening them goes, if you're like us and you just prefer to use red tomatoes, there are different ways you can go about it, and I've tried different things like the whole wrapping in newspaper and then putting in a dark place somewhere, each one individually. And yeah, it worked, but you have to keep up on it. You have to check the tomatoes every single day, which means you have to unwrap every single tomato every day and pull out the ripe ones, and the ones that aren't ripe, you wrap them back up and put them in the bag. And I did that one year, and while it worked, it was a pain. I didn't find it worked any better than simply just putting my green tomatoes in the windowsill and letting them ripen. Now, typically I won't pick them until they have at least a little bit of color. Now, this one I picked last night looked about like this. You can see it has a slight blush of color to it. And these will ripen up very quickly. And this one I just picked last night, and I'm pretty sure it looked like this. And already this morning, you can see it's turning red. And I didn't even set it in the windowsill. These ones here, I think these three, in fact, I picked this morning. And this is one of the greenest ones I've picked in this season. And I only did so for this video so I could talk about it. But since we're actually having our summer is actually drawing out late, which I'm so grateful for. First time we've seen this happen in many years where we had a real late start to our summer. And then the summer went ahead and continued on into October. It's been great. So I've been still collecting plenty of cucumbers and tomatoes. You can see my ripe ones here. These are all ones that I brought in when they looked about like this here. And in anywhere from 1 to 3 days, they turn this color, and they're ripe right now. So I'm going to be processing these up and making some more tomato flakes. So really, as long as you have plenty of windowsill space, I like that better because every day I could just see them and I pull out the ripe ones and then I start dealing with them or eat them, because these smaller ones that I grow like this, these are the black vernissages. I love just to snack on these ones. But I also dehydrate those up and put them in my tomato flake, which, by the way, I do have a new tomato flake video coming out. This is going to be a little more updated. And so be watching for that to come out soon if you want to see how I make my tomato flakes. And basically, I think I talk a little bit how I use them, but it's just as simple as adding water. You can use them for making soups, sauces, and so much more, especially all those Italian sauces for pizza, spaghetti, ravioli, and lasagna. But anyway, yeah, it's easy. Just set them in the windowsill and let them ripen. Just keep an eye on them. Every once in a while, you'll get one of those green tomatoes that will refuse to ripen and then it will just rot in place. That still happens from time to time, but most of the time I have no problem getting them to ripen. Okay, I'm only going to touch on this because I have a video coming out on this. The very next thing, in fact, I think I'm going to do it tonight, possibly, if not tomorrow night. I'm going to make cold cannon out of my potato powder. Wow, this jar, I just realized how heavy this quart jar is. So there's at the very least, 6 quarts of cooked up mashed potatoes in here. And these are from my own garden potatoes that I then dehydrated and powdered up. So as I said, I have a video that's coming out on how I did that. And the purpose is to use it as a mashed potato for me. Though you can use it for thickening soups and maybe getting some of that potato flavor in your soups, sauces, and whatever you want to use it in. But yes, for me, it's using it as a mashed potato. Flavor, way better than any kind of store-bought instant potato, but it does take a little bit longer to prepare. You do have to cook it for a little bit, and you got to make sure that you get your water proportions correct. So as I said in that video, I recommend starting small, just to experiment with it. If you go this route, like a teaspoon of potato powder to 4 teaspoons of water, always 1 part potato powder to 4 parts of your liquid water or milk when you first start to blend it. Then add water as you need it, because it's most likely you will need up to 6 parts of water. It's very unlikely 4 parts are going to be enough, but I recommend starting with that because it's going to be a lot easier to add liquid to it a little bit at a time than to add powder to thicken it up, because you got to cook it so the powder's hot. And just like with any kind of starch, you try to add it to already hot liquid, it's going to clump and it's not going to be smooth. So anyway, I go over a few tips on how to prepare these, the best way to do it to get the smoothest consistency when you go to make mashed potatoes out of it. And speaking of potatoes, did you see these? Now, a few videos back, this and that videos back, I was showing my red potatoes. I dug up the first ones and they were pretty big. They weren't near this size. I had no idea red potatoes could even get this big. And I had several like these. Some of them are now in that jar right there, but I saved a few out so I could make sure I showed them. And it's amazing how big these things are. They have done really well. And I'm so thankful I had it was kind of more of an afterthought to go ahead and plant some red potatoes, which I'd never grown before. What I did was I bought a bag of red potatoes that were your standard size, and just one little 5-pound bag. And I have been getting red potatoes like crazy. I have been getting more red potatoes than I have yellow potatoes this year, which are our favorite for flavor. And most of my yellow potatoes, usually I'll get quite a few that are this size and even bigger. They tend to be smaller, like, average like this. But this year, most of my yellow potatoes have not, I think it's because our very, very late summer, just have not been producing as well. Now, I haven't checked the ones in the covered area out back yet. I'm trying to get them out of the front yard garden first because I want to let the chickens get in there and start tilling that up and working that area. I got to still go through there one more time and make sure I'm getting all the potatoes out. Anyway, I'm trying to put up a lot in a different form, as well as still keeping some whole like this back in cooler storage so that we can use them for fried potatoes as fresh as possible through the year. But anyway, so I'm definitely planting red potatoes again next year, even though we prefer the flavor of the yellows personally, that nice buttery flavor that they have. the production of the red potatoes has been amazing. I just cannot believe that one little 5-pound bag of potatoes I planted and how well that they did. Way better than my standard yellow potatoes. So this is why I recommend doing more than one variety. We're all going to have our favorites. Like, I am more and more sold every year on the purple tomatoes that I've been growing for years off of one purple tomato that I got from a store that I save seeds from, and then each year keep saving the seeds, and I get the best production out of the purple tomatoes. However, it's still important to grow a couple other varieties along with that, because what if that one year, just like with my yellow potatoes, they don't produce as well? You want some backups for potatoes, tomatoes, or any of your vegetables. The only thing I don't recommend doing that with is corn, because corn will cross-pollinate in the first season and give you mutt corn. It may not be a big deal depending on which ones, how it turns out, but it may. But anyway, yes, growing a couple of different varieties of each of your vegetables, I believe, is to be very important. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is the different photo collaborations we have going on. The garden collaboration is now closed. I'm not accepting any more photos for that. I will, because I'm going to start working on editing that video as early as today, the day you're actually viewing this, or tomorrow. So this week I'm going to be working on that. So anyway, garden's done. We're moving on to the next one. So you can start sending me your photos for the next collaboration, which is going to be the recipe collaboration. So this is going to be only based off any of the recipes you followed. It's okay if you make changes to the recipes, because that's what my channel is all about, is giving you the base idea for a recipe, and then you take it and run with it. So it's okay. So it can be inspired from my recipe or followed exactly. A dinner, a dessert, or even a homemade chocolate. I have several different chocolate recipes out there. This is making it from scratch. Even a chocolate sauce. If you haven't done any of those, then I'll put a couple of playlists down below on meals, and I'll put the one on chocolates. I think I did also break the dessert one up, where I have like the turnovers and pies, and what else do I have in there? The fruit crisp and some other things in there. So I'll put the 3 different playlists in the description box down below if you haven't tried any of my recipes or haven't taken any photos yet, so that you have time, because I'm going to give you at least a good month to make something, take some photos, and then you can go ahead and send those to me. And if you've already done it and taken photos, go ahead and start sending those to me now. So remember, you can send more than 3 photos, but I'm only going to pick up to 3 from each person, so the video isn't too long, because even if the slideshow only ends up being 5 minutes long, there are hours of work that goes into just that little 5 minutes, hours of work. So I have to keep it at least somewhat limited. And then I've got more ideas coming on the photo collaborations, and I'm trying to do at least one every month, every 4 to 6 weeks if I'm able, and depending on my time that I've got going. So anyway, garden collaboration is going to be published next. It'll be a few weeks out before you see it. But yeah, we'll get started on the cooking recipe / whatever I'm going to call it collaboration. Anyway, moving on, a couple more things I want to talk about before I close this video. Jackson's birthday is this weekend, and so some of you might remember a while back that I had, this summer, I got a little dog pool because they're tougher for Jackson to play in on hot days. And then I decided I really wanted to get him some toys that would float. So I got him a couple of little floaty toys, and one was like a helicopter. The helicopter doesn't float, but it sits in a boat. So it's a rescue helicopter and boat. And then I got him the plane, the little green plane. And I really fell in love with these toys because not only are they made in the USA, they're made very sturdy. And I noticed this later, they're made from 100% recycled plastic. So that's pretty cool too. And even though I have my thoughts on recycle things, because a lot of times the recycling thing you're not really saving the environment like you think it is, but plastics, especially if we can keep them out of the landfills and turn them into something else, I still think that's a great thing. So he's definitely all boy. He likes anything on wheels or that flies. So I thought, I don't think he has a train yet. So I got him the train. You can see the caboose is back here. and the engine, and then one of the cars has got two little guys with it. But the thing I liked about this set is that it also came with a book, and very reasonably priced, considering this are made in the United States. And like I said, also because they're very sturdy, so I'm really excited to give that to him this weekend, because I thought it'd be nice for him to have a train as much as he likes the toys I bought for here. And so I'm going to link to their, it is on Amazon. I don't know if they have a separate store, but on their Amazon page, you can go through there and find all kinds of great toys. And not everything is a vehicle. They have a few things that are not. Most of it is, though. And they have some that are even in pink and purple for girls who like trucks and cars and stuff like that, but would like them in girly colors, which I thought was really cool, because I liked trucks and cars too when I was a little girl. I was both all girl, but a little bit of tomboy. I like to play with cars, especially them little Matchbox cars. I wanted to have a huge collection of them. But anyway, lots of great stuff in there. Like, just really neat. You know, even the planes, you know, there's different ones that also come with a little book to go with it. By the way, if you have Honey, the program I've talked about before, which I'll link to the video on that down below, you can get email notifications when any of those things drop in price. There was one of those that right after I bought it, it dropped in price, like almost was 50% off. And usually they're like a sale price and then they'll go back up. So that was, you know, it's nice to have that, though sometimes I've already purchased the product when I get the email notification, unfortunately. But other times it saved me money because I was waiting for it to go down and I got the Honey notification and bought it right up. All right, well, I think that's it for my this and that for the week. And if you got any thoughts, suggestions, ideas on anything I mentioned, go ahead and put them in comments down below. And don't forget to check out the video links and playlists I'll be putting in the description box. And you get there by clicking on show more if you're on a computer right down here below my channel name, or if you're on a smart device, it'll be over on this side. It'll be, most likely it's going to be an arrow or a little triangle that you touch to open up the description box and find all those links. All right, well, thanks for watching. Take care and God bless.